And my next guest was diagnosed with the virus and was in a medically induced coma for 4 days. Kristen Musson joins us now from Pacific Grove, California. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, of course, you seem to be doing great. It has been a few years now since you've recovered from Hantavirus. So take us back to that time. When did it happen and what were the initial symptoms that presented?
Yeah, so, I had gone on a trip to the Sierras in July 2023, and about a month later, I started developing flu-like symptoms. First, it would be kind of a fever, and then it would go away, and then I was having stomach issues, and it would go away, and then I would have chills, and just a lot of flu-like symptoms. And then finally, about a week after this, I was like, I've got to get back to work. I'm a new mom. I have a 5-month-old. I've got to get better. So I went to urgent care, and they did several tests on me, and all of them came back negative. I didn't have the flu. I didn't have COVID. But they said, the ER has more tests available. So if you don't feel better in 24 hours, please go to the ER. So then that evening, I developed a cough, which was a very different symptom than I had the past week. And this cough was unlike anything I ever had before. It was like I couldn't breathe. And I just kept coughing, and it kept me up all night. And so in the morning, I asked my husband to bring me to the hospital. And then once going to the hospital, within about 2 hours, I was being placed under life support.
Wow, that is incredible. And, I know you've shared some images about this journey for yourself on social media, and we're sharing them with our viewers right now. You describe that cough, but I'm wondering how you were feeling at this time, that you went in and you were diagnosed with Hantavirus. Had you even heard of it before?
No, I had no idea what it was. It was kind of a miracle that my doctor at Community Hospital of Monterey knew what Hantavirus was. He asked me a variety of questions. He asked me if I had traveled recently, if I had been around any rodent activity. And then after telling him that I was visiting the Sierras, he said, I think you have Hantavirus. And so he did end up testing for that. And so at the time it was kind of a relief that I, wasn't being dramatic. It wasn't just a flu. It was something much bigger. And the doctor knew, this isn't pneumonia. My lungs were being filled up with fluid so quickly that it had to be something else. And this was progressing so rapidly. And I think that's the thing with Hantavirus is it resembles the flu, but then, or pneumonia, but then all of a sudden it becomes a big emergency. So yeah, I had never heard of Hantavirus. And I didn't even have time to Google it before they said, we're going to put you under support. And
so how long were you then on life support and how did that feel? And I'm wondering too, at what stage they told you that this could potentially be contagious between humans?
So my strain was not contagious between humans. So that is a very big difference between the strain that's on the cruise ship. So my strain is the one that's primarily in the US. It's just from rodents. So my strain was not contagious, but when I was in the hospital and then as the tests were coming through, because it did take about 10 days to verify that I had Hantavirus, I was kind of labeled as an unknown lung condition. So they didn't know if it was infectious. Anyone that came around me had to gear up and wear masks. So, it was a relief to find out that mine was not transferable because I did have a 5-month-old baby and my husband was by my side in the hospital the whole time. And so that was a big relief to find. So much different from, the cruise ship.
How sort of, I guess, surprised perhaps were you when all of a sudden hantavirus is in the headlines, and this is the strain now that, of course, can be transferred person to person? What's the first thing that went through your mind?
It was very unsettling feeling. It's not something that I would wish upon anyone. It was a horrific thing that I went through, and I think the only I had such relief that it was so rare and that it wasn't transferred. And now it's kind of slowly spreading. And personally, I don't think it's it's a virus that has been around for a while. So, I have faith that it's not going to be the next pandemic, but I don't want it to spread, and I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through. It's not, it's a horrible virus. And, but I do appreciate that it's getting coverage and that people are getting more aware of the virus and can, get this, understand the symptoms, because that is like a big step to surviving is knowing the symptoms and getting help quickly. And that's the only way that I survived. If I had gone in an hour, 2 hours later, I probably wouldn't have survived.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story with our viewers. Certainly knowing the symptoms will be helpful when it comes to awareness. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
That is Kristen Musson. Thank you again.